Hello everyone, I hope that you're doing well and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be kind of like a part 2 to last week's video, which I will leave linked down below in the description if you do want to check that out after this one. But in that video, I gave you 3 steps that you can take in order to start addressing some of your digestive problems. So in today's video, I wanted to expand on one of those steps that I gave you and give you some digestive health tips to take during your mealtime. And along with these tips, I will also be showing you a meal prep. It's one of my favorites to make, and it's also very easy to make. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. We're gonna hop into the meal prep first, and then we're gonna talk about digestion. All right, like I said, this is one of my favorite meals to make. It's super simple, and not only can you have it for lunch, but you can also have it for dinner. So it's gonna be a tuna salad with some crackers on the side, and I'm also going to be doing a homemade mayo recipe. And I have talked about this on my Instagram before, and you guys are always asking me about the homemade mayo recipe. So I thought that I would make this video. But I'm gonna be using some wild yellowfin tuna. This is from Costco, so it comes with a pack of 8, and I just use 1 pack per day. So if you don't want to use tuna, feel free to use a rotisserie chicken if you would like and have a chicken salad instead of a tuna salad. I got some almond flour crackers from Simple Mills. Also like to get these in bulk at Costco. And then I have my veggies all cut up here. I have half of a red onion, some celery. I'm gonna have half of an apple on the side as well. And then if you want to make the homemade mayo recipe, first of all, the reason why I want to make a homemade mayo recipe is because once I've made this the first time, I couldn't go back to just any mayo. This is really delicious. And then the other reason that I like to make my homemade mayo is because a lot of the mayos out there contain inflammatory oils. And so the oil that I'm going to be using is avocado oil, got some Himalayan pink salt, black pepper. I'm gonna use some mustard, the juice of half of a lemon, and then I have some pasture-raised eggs. And I'm gonna be mixing all these ingredients here to make the homemade mayo, and I'm gonna be using my magic bullet. Okay, to make the homemade mayo recipe, I'm going to crack 1 pasture-raised egg into the cup, and then in the cup I'm also going to add in 1 teaspoon of mustard. I'm gonna mix those up, and then I'll add in the next ingredients. Now that I have my mustard and my egg all mixed up, it's time to add in the avocado oil. Now this is where you want to make sure that you're adding in the oil into the cup slowly, because if you don't add it in slowly, it's going to be hard to make that mayo texture that we're looking for. So we're going to be using a total of 3/4 cups of the avocado oil to make this mayo. And what I like to do to make sure that I add things in slowly is I like to measure out the oil 1/4 cup at a time. And what I do is within this 1/4 cup, I pour a little bit of the oil into the cup. Give it a good mix, and then keep pouring more of the oil into the cup, keep mixing, so on and so forth until I reach 3/4 cups. So I'll show you here as I add in the oil. So this is kind of what it looks like after I've added in half a cup of the avocado oil. I still have 1/4 cup left to go, but as you can see, it's really starting to thicken up. That's why it's so important that you add in the oil slowly. And once I've added in the 3/4 cups of the avocado oil, I'm gonna add in 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, along with half a teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt, and half a teaspoon of black pepper. Finally, I'm gonna mix everything once again. Check out that texture, you guys. I'm telling you, this homemade mayo recipe, it's a good one. And the reason why I like using avocado oil is because avocado oil doesn't have any sort of taste to it. If you use olive oil, which you can, it's just gonna have a slightly different taste, so just be aware of that. And this is usually gonna last me around 4 days. So I'm gonna put my lunch together and I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. And there we have it. Tuna salad, crackers on the side, apple as well. In the tuna, I mixed in some of the homemade mayo, celery, and red onion. And since you guys really enjoyed my last What I Eat in a Day video, where I kind of broke down the price point of every single meal, I thought I would do the same thing for this one. So this one is going to cost me $4.64 to make here at home. And if you guys do want to watch that last What I Eat in a Day video, I will leave it linked down below in the description for you to check it out. Okay, now that I have my lunch prepped out for the week, let's talk about digestion. And I thought I would start off by giving you a really high-level overview of how digestion works in the body, because I think that understanding this process will allow you to better understand the digestive health tips that I will be sharing with you in today's video. So a lot of people think that digestion starts in the mouth, but in reality, digestion starts in the brain. Yes, the brain. The reason it starts in the brain is because when you think about your food, when you see your food, and when you smell your food, it triggers these salivary glands in your mouth to start producing saliva. So let's just say I have my food right in front of me. I'm about to eat it. Cannot wait. It looks delicious. And I am going to get a piece of my food. So when I get a piece of my food, then the digestion process begins in the mouth. And the digestion process is going to include me chewing the food. So my teeth are going to begin to break down this food, and the enzymes in the saliva are also going to begin to break down the food. So I'm chewing my food, I've chewed it enough, and now I'm going to swallow that food. So when I swallow that food, the food then goes into my stomach. And if you remember from last week's video, I talked about stomach acid and how important it is to make sure that your stomach is really acidic in order to digest and absorb your food. Because what's supposed to happen is once that food is in your stomach and all the digestion happens in there, the food is then supposed to go into the intestines. However, if your stomach isn't acidic enough, then it's gonna have a harder time triggering this next step in digestion and nutrient absorption. So when it can't go into the intestines, it's gonna sit in your stomach longer than it needs to. And so when the food sits in your stomach longer than it needs to, that is why we can experience digestive problems, such as bloating, heartburn, and we just feel gassy. So along with all these things that we can experience when we have low stomach acid, other health conditions and symptoms that we can experience from low stomach acid include acne and eczema, asthma and allergies, diarrhea and constipation, depression, etc. So stomach acid, like I said in last week's video, and I'll say it again, it's super important. So now that you know a little bit more about how digestion works, I want to give you some digestive health tips that you can take when it comes to your mealtime. And this first tip that you're going to want to do actually takes place before you start eating your meal. So before you start eating your meal, you want to make sure that you are in a relaxed and calm state. Because remember, digestion starts in the brain, not the mouth, and we want to be in a rest and digest state, not fight or flight. Let me give you just a quick example here. Let's say that you are getting chased by a lion. When you're getting chased by this lion, do you think that your body is going to be like, okay, Cindy, let's digest and properly absorb this food? Probably not, right? It's going to take its focus away from digestion to saving your life. As it should, because your body is so smart. But our body doesn't know the difference between the stress that we may be experiencing from running away from this lion and the stress that we may be experiencing from, for example, your job or the boss that you have. Even though the body is super smart, it doesn't know the difference between these things that are stressful. It is all stress at the end of the day. So some things that you can do to get into this relaxed and calm state are going to be including things like making sure that you're sitting down to eat your meal, because a lot of us will eat our meal standing up, maybe we're leaning on the countertop, things like that. We're just not sitting down. And it's so important that we just sit down and take a moment for our meal. The second thing that we want to make sure is that our shoulders are relaxed, because when we've been working all day, maybe we're stressed out, our shoulders kind of start to rise up to our ears, and we're not sitting in a relaxed and calm state. And finally, what you want to do is take 5 slow, deep breaths. So you're going to want to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. I know it seems super weird to take a couple of deep breaths before your meal, but trust me, it is going to be crucial that you do this, because the digestion starts in the brain, not the mouth. You want to make sure that you're relaxed and in a calm state. Okay, now that you are sitting down, shoulders are relaxed, and you've taken your 5 deep breaths, tip number 2 is going to be to chew your food thoroughly. I cannot emphasize this enough. It basically should look like a paste when you've done enough chewing. So many of us eat so ridiculously fast. It's as if the food was going to fly away or something. And I am so guilty of doing this in the past. In the past, I've eaten my meal within like 10 minutes, which is insane to me. And I would just shovel the food in without being mindful of, slowing down. And sometimes we may be so hungry that we heat up our food and then we take it out of the microwave or just finish making it, and it's so piping hot, but we're so hungry that we put a bite of it into our mouth and we are trying to air it out as it is in our mouth and trying to chew it at the same time. There's more than likely no way that you're chewing that food properly. The other thing that we sometimes do during our mealtime is that we are going to go and take a bite of our food. We take a bite of our food and then we start gathering the food for the very next bite. But we haven't even finished chewing the bite that we have in our mouth. So these are just so many things that we do during our mealtime. And honestly, with the world that we live in today, it's so hard to support digestion because we're always so go, go, go. And we don't take the time to just honestly slow down and be mindful. So if there's anything that you can do to be mindful and in the moment as you eat your food, it's gonna help digestion tremendously. Next tip that you wanna take into consideration when it comes to mealtime and digestion is to limit the water intake during and around mealtime, because this can reduce stomach acid. And remember, our stomach needs to be very acidic in order to properly digest and trigger that next step into digestion and nutrient absorption. Small sips here and there are fine with your meal, but if you are chugging or drinking a ton of water with your meal, it can affect digestion. So I would wait around 20 to 30 minutes after and before your meal to drink that water. I know sometimes as women, we are drinking a ton of water with our meals because we want to perhaps eat less and lose weight. That is one of the things that we sometimes think that we need to do in order to lose that weight. Or sometimes we drink a ton of water because we need to get our food down. But that is just a prime example of us not chewing our food thoroughly. Another tip to keep in mind when you're eating is to just check in with yourself. How is everything going? If you catch yourself feeling a little bit stressed out, it's perfectly fine for you to take another couple of deep breaths during your meal to make sure that you're slowing down. So I know that we talked about quite a few things in today's video, so let's recap the digestive health tips. Tip number 1 is to make sure that you're eating in a relaxed and calm state. Tip number 2 is to chew your food thoroughly. Tip number 3 is to limit the water intake during and around your meals. And tip number 4 is to check in with yourself. Like I mentioned in last week's video, I am really excited to become a nutritional therapy practitioner. And when I become an NTP, I'll be able to help women on a deeper level when it comes to digestion and gut health. But for now, give these tips a try. Let me know how it goes. My DMs are always open on Instagram. And I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.